Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Why did this feel so weird today? Folks, I overslept. Catherine's out of town, and so I'm on my own here getting up, and I don't know, maybe I'm coming down with something. I don't feel like it, but I don't know. Normally the cat, wakes me up either to be fed or because the cat knows it's time to get up. I usually paws my face. Didn't happen today. Cat said, "Screw you." So I get up, I look at it, it's 9:15. It's, oh my God, I've already been up and at 'em and long at 9:15, and this is before I even get ready to get in here. So I knew that people would be panicking, and I sent emails and texts. I'm okay, overslept, no problem. But I've had an hour and a half cut off the day here, and I feel naked sitting here. I feel woefully unprepared and ill-equipped to do the program today. Even though I was up late last night doing show prep, there's always stuff that comes in this morning, and I've been just scrambling here, trying to catch up. But it's just the weirdness. And a lot of people think I get up at 11 o'clock and come in here at noon, do the program, and go home and do whatever. And I would love it. My day starts at noon and rush. I can sleep late every day. Yeah, you think so, but it isn't the case. So anyway, I don't offer this as an excuse, but just an explanation. This could be one of those days where you people know more than I do. Not with cumulative or accumulated knowledge, but there may be some things that have happened this morning or late last night that I still haven't discovered yet. But we nevertheless... we're prepped and we're here and we're ready to go. It's great to have you here as always. The telephone number is 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushmo@eibnet.com. Did I not tell you? Did I tell you? Right here it is in the Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump makes pitch to Democrats in South Carolina. That had to be the explanation for Trump's strategy on Saturday night. It had to be. South Carolina's an open primary. Trump, and we had the news yesterday that polling data is all over the place, by the way. The internal Bush poll, for which there are two sources. So somebody in the Bush camp is leaking polling data because this is internal stuff. And the internal polling of candidates we hardly ever see. And in this case, it's not all that close to the public polls that we have. In the public polls, Trump still has a reasonable lead. In the internal Bush poll, he's only got a 2-point lead, which is margin of error tie. It's 26-24 in the internal. That would explain, Trump probably has the same data, that would explain Trump going after Cruz. And he did yesterday, the press conference. You got those sound bites as I promised. He doubled down on it all today. And then backed off and then tripled down on it. Says he's going to sue Trump. Says now he's sue Cruz. Now he's not sure if he's going to sue Cruz. But anyway, Trump is making a play for voters other than Republicans. Now, isn't it fascinating? Because let me ask you a little pop quiz. Who in the Republican primary started out by claiming happily and joyfully that he was going to win the Republican nomination without the base? Whose strategy? Exactly right, Mr. Snerdley. It was Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush and the donor class were going to win this nomination despite the base. Remember this now? And isn't it fascinating that the guy who's actually trying to pull that off and may have some success at it is Donald Trump? Isn't it amazing the way things turn? Yeah, Jeb and the donor boys were going to go out and just flood this primary with money. They were going to divide the conservative candidates in the race. They were going to divide their money, divide their voter support. And the old rule of politics that he has the money wins. Jeb was going to end up scorching the field simply because they wouldn't have anywhere near the amount of money he did. And look, Jeb is in last place, depending on the poll you look at, and there hasn't been any significant upward movement in any way, shape, manner, form. He brings out former President George W. Bush yesterday, and I don't know. Have you seen some of the comparisons? Some of the comparisons are Wyatt and W running again. Man, this guy's on top of it. This guy comes off like a confident cowboy. I have all kinds of rave reviews about W out there, but I'm hearing people say that the contrast from W to Jeb is not that good. Anyway, I find it curious that they were going to race to victory without the base, and Trump is the guy doing it. Now, in Trump's case, it's not the original. So maybe it is. You know, maybe Trump has all along known that he was going to make this move in open state primaries. Because he's been, I told you for the longest time here, Trump's constituency is not just members of the Republican base. It's not just conservatives. It's from all over the place. A lot of independents, a lot of moderates, a lot of old what they call Reagan Democrats make up the Trump coalition. But this internal Bush poll, I'm sure Trump has access, makes it look like that he's not going to have the slam dunk South Carolina victory. Cruz creeping up, so hence the attacks on Cruz. And for good measure, he throws in similar attacks on Rubio. But it is clear that that's what Trump's trying to do. Now, it could be self-preservation, or it could be a desire just to smoke the field. If he wins big in South Carolina with a broad-based coalition, then he pretty much thinks that he may be able to hammer the final nail in the coffin. Or it could be that he has to do this in order to win, and the win might not be that big. As I say, the polling is all over the place, but the internal Bush poll, reported in two different places, there isn't any other poll that has Cruz anywhere near that close. Cruz is gaining. Cruz is outperforming in every primary election. He's outperforming where he stands in the polls. So we'll get into that here in detail in just a second. But folks, have you seen the top story linked at Drudge? Another former girlfriend of Bill Clinton's has resurfaced. Her name is Sally Perdue. Her name now Sally Miller. Sally Perdue coming out of the closet, so to speak. She was one of Bill's paramours back in the 70s when he was the governor of Arkansas. And it's a story in the UK Daily Mail, and it's I'm just going to pass along the details to you that the Daily Mail is reporting from Sally Miller, i.e. Perdue. She says that Bill Clinton was so-so in bed, that he used to put on her frilliest nightgowns and dance around playing the saxophone. That's what she's saying. I'm just telling you what she said. Clinton would put on her nightie and dance around the room playing the saxophone. Ms. Perdue says that during pillow talk with Bill Clinton, Bill told her that Hillary that Hillary preferred female lovers. This is what the Daily Mail is saying. I am just reporting here. Sally Perdue told the Daily Mail that Bill Clinton told her, Sally Perdue, that Hillary preferred female lovers. Now, that don't go crazy. That information, with the way things are in the Democrat Party today, that probably is going to help Hillary. The old standard application of stuff like this. Oh my God, that's a devastating. No. In this day and age, that's probably a resume enhancement. Even if it's not true, it doesn't matter. Just that it's out there, and it's not the first time something like that's been out there. But here it comes again with a close confidant of Bill Clinton, with him supposedly the source for the information. At least in the Democrat primaries, it's a resume enhancement for her. Anyway, Hillary's out there barking now, trying to imitate. I guess the story is that back when she was somewhere, sometime, they had a dog, and the dog barked when the dog heard a lie. Something like a really short version of the story. And so now that Hillary is out there saying that we need a dog. We need a new dog to bark every time the Republicans start telling lies. And then she started barking like a dog. Arf, 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 with a big crowd behind her on stage. It was at a public appearance. She started barking like a dog I'm looking for the audio sound because I know I saw it. Here it is, grab number 16. I asked for a montage. I want a montage of some sounds that Hillary has made, and they're working on that now. But it was in Reno. And Dingy Harry's mad at her because she went out. She said, the Nevada caucuses, it's not really that important because there's no diversity in Nevada. 80% of the vote out there is white, and they're all going to go for Bernie Sanders. Dingy Harry blew a gasket over her insult to the electorate of his state. Anyway, here's Hillary barking like a dog in Reno last night.
One of my favorite political ads of all time was a radio ad, rural Arkansas, where the announcer said, wouldn't it be great if somebody running for office said something, we could have an immediate reaction as to whether it was true or not? Well, we've trained this dog, and the dog, if it's not true, he's going to bark. I'm trying to figure out how we can do that with the Republicans. We need to get that dog and follow them around, and every time they say these things, like, the Great Recession was caused by too much regulation.
All goes. It goes much longer than that. She kept barking and barking. I'm sorry, folks. She went on barking for like 10 seconds there. But anyway, we're going to put a montage together of this. Now, here's the thing about this, though. There's two things. Do you notice how she's obsessed with the fact that they need a truth detector out there? Bill Clinton was obsessed with that when he called KMOX St. Louis about me. They are paranoid out there that people are lying about them. And what that really means is they're paranoid. They're not getting away with their lies. When she talks, we need a dog. We need a dog to start barking. When the Republicans lie, such as there was too little regulation, or whatever would she say, there was too much regulation caused the banking crisis. Side issue, trying to explain once again what that was about, but if time permits, I will. But anyway, the second point about this, if this were a Republican, that's all you would be seeing on cable news right now. And you would be watching long discussion segments on cable news. Assembled experts and guests would be asked to explain the Republican's state of mind. Is the pressure of the campaign getting to him? They would be asked. Is this the kind of temperament we want to see in a potential president? All of these questions, and it would be designed to, once again, by virtue of perception, attempt to destroy and impugn the image and reputation of said republic. With Hillary, they're burying it. And and those places that are not burying it are not acting like it's any big deal. And it's not the first such verbal screw-up that Hillary has engaged in, such as the screeching, angry, out-of-control woman talking about not being allowed to dissent against sitting administrations, and then the black dialect, ain't no way tart, all this kind of stuff that literally would destroy any Republican. The media would take the occasion of these events to destroy any Republican. This is going to be looped. It already is looped. It's going to be added to songs, Who Let the Dogs Out. You can bet this is going to be all over social media. The Clintons can't control that. It's going to be out there everywhere. It's going to be out there with people laughing at her, making fun of her. It's going to be part of social media supporters trying to defend her. I just don't know the impact that it's going to have on her as it would damage a Republican. But regardless, it's funny as hell. And we can ask the same questions. Is she cracking up? Is the pressure getting to her? And I think it's a legitimate question. Remember, this started out as a coronation. This started out, Bernie Sanders was there for a faux fight. And now this has turned into, she lost New Hampshire, might lose Nevada, which was supposed to be the Western firewall. Now we go to South Carolina, and it's being said that the only thing going to save her there is the African-American vote. This is not how this was supposed to go. Bill Clinton was not supposed to have joined the campaign this early. And Bill Clinton he's being laughed at, made fun of, and commented upon as looking old and decrepit and out of it, and clearly not the same Clinton that everybody knew in the 90s. None of this, I guarantee you, was supposed to happen. But even with all that, I mean, who else could legitimately be their nominee? She's still going to be the one, it would seem. That the smart money would say. Let me take a quick time out. We'll be back and continue right after this. Don't go away, folks. Okay, so the Democrat presidential frontrunner, can we call her the frontrunner? Well, she's the presumed nominee. I don't know that she's the frontrunner now. Well, she is in delegates, so that we'll call her the frontrunner. The Democrat frontrunner is barking mad. And everybody's talking about how out of control Trump is, and all you got to do is visit the Hillary campaign. So she's out there barking to illustrate Republicans lying. Some old dog in a radio commercial in rural Arkansas that she remembers. But get this headline from thehill.com. Frustrated female senators say Clinton is victim of sexism. Women serving in the Senate say that Hillary Clinton is being subjected to an unfair, sexist double standard on the campaign trail. Senator Barbara Mikulski, the dean of the Senate women, said she's often judged by a double standard. Many of we women feel that there's a double standard. What's being said about Hillary is what women have heard for centuries. You're too loud. You're too aggressive. You're too pushy. Why do you want the vote? Nobody's saying that anymore. You know, men have been tamed into being practically docile. Nobody says that. These people are living in a time warp. They're living in an era. These people can't, in Hillary's case, she can't get out of the 90s. These feminist senators in the female senators can't get past the 60s and 70s. Which is the birth of the modern era of feminism. And just like the African-American community, the civil rights coalitions, they still think it's the 1800s or 1960. It is amazing. These people on the left, they keep talking about building bridges to the future and so forth, and they are stuck back in the historical period where they think life was toughest for them. And then they talk and complain and whine and moan as though no progress has been made. So Barbara Mikulski, with a complaint that feminists were whining about back in the 60s and 70s. Double standard, equal pay. Non-issues anymore, except in Hillary's office, where women don't make as much as men. What's being said about Hillary is what women have heard. Who's saying she's too loud or too aggressive? She's barking like a dog. Mikulski? What do you mean too loud? People are saying she needs to cry more, like she did in New Hampshire. People say she needs to start making sense. But nobody's saying she's being too loud, too aggressive, too pushy. That's old stuff. But here they are stuck in it. Senate Democrat women have raised their concerns about the public treatment of Clinton in private conversations with their colleagues. Mikulski said there are many Senate men that feel the same way. It's an equal opportunity for frustration. When are we going to start talking about ideas? Who are these men? I'll tell you, they're henpecked. Your average, ordinary, liberal, metrosexual, docile, hardly notice the guy kind of, they're running around echoing the same complaints the women do, because that's the only way they can get second base with them. Everybody knows that. Everybody's seen that. Female lawmakers particularly galled by Bob Woodward characterizing Clinton's tone as screaming. I can see why they'd be mad. It's not screaming, it's screeching. She screeches. You know, there is, ladies and gentlemen, there's a double standard with Hillary Clinton, and we have to be honest about it. She's being judged by a double standard, I will admit. And it's this. If Hillary Clinton were a man with her identical record, she would not even be running for president. She would have been laughed out of it. With her demonstrable failures like the Russian reset, her wide-ranging incompetence, led by whatever went on in Benghazi, and we have a pretty good idea. Her willingness to lie to the American people and the families of the dead in Benghazi. Her basic lack of understanding of the job of Secretary of State, that it's more than just accumulating a lot of hours and days flying around the world. I'm serious. If there were a man who had been Secretary of State with her horrible record running for president, I guarantee you he would be judged much more harshly than Mrs. Clinton is being. Mrs. Clinton isn't judged at all, particularly by people on the left. They want to coronate her. She gets the most favorable press of any person in this race outside of Barack Hussein Obama. There is a clear double standard from which she is benefiting. The fact that she is a woman covers her incompetence and masks it. And the fact that she is a woman prevents anybody from seriously going after her on that. But you won't see Bernie Sanders do it. Bernie Sanders won't go after her incompetence as Secretary of State, even if he thought it, because she's a woman. And you still don't hit the woman, no matter how far the feminists advance. There's still certain societal norms. You don't invade a woman's space. You don't theoretically, figuratively, or literally hit the woman. You don't be mean to the woman. You just don't do it, no matter who the woman is. Even if it's Nurse Ratched, you don't do it. And she benefits from that. She benefits from having a record that is not scrutinized. And the proof, you know what generated that whole story here about these women in the Senate being upset that Hillary is being victimized by sexism? Bob Woodward characterized her speaking pattern as screaming. And they're all having a cow in the Senate over that description of Hillary speaking. Men are routinely made fun of for the way they speak. They're routinely commented upon by the way they speak. The words they use, the speech patterns. You know, with men, everything's fair game. You can go after men for any reason whatsoever, including for being a man. Look at how protected Hillary is because she's a woman, because she's a leftist woman. As a leftist woman, she's a victim. Hillary Clinton, a victim, who has earned $115 or $50, whatever it is, $1 million over the years doing speeches, being paid $256,000 by Goldman Sachs to come in and speak for 20 minutes. And she will not release the transcripts of those appearances. You know why? Because she goes in and she tells them how wonderful they are. She goes in and tells them how important they are to the U.S. economy. For that kind of money, she goes in and sings their praises. That's why you'll never see a transcript of Mrs. Clinton's speech or speeches before banks, because while she's on the campaign trail trying to make voters think that she's going to get even with them and she's going to take them down and she's going to punish them, she's out kissing their butts in private in order to become independently wealthy. But you can't say that because she's a woman. That's to attack the woman. So, yes, she's benefiting greatly from a double standard. That she is a woman. Now, let's move on to the Republican race here. There are a series of stories on polls, and some are conflicting. Some are confirming. Let's see. Here we go. First up is the Columbia, South Carolina, the State newspaper poll. Donald Trump still leading in this is after the debate, by the way, after they call it the explosive Republican debate on Saturday night in Greenville. Trump still leads the race for second place. Appears to be narrowing behind Trump, who has 35% after the debate. Behind Trump, 35%. Rubio and Ted Cruz are tied now at 18%. Now, Trump almost doubles them individually. If you combine Cruz and Rubio, they lead Trump by a point, and that is interesting. Keep that in mind. Cruz and Rubio in the South Carolina, the State poll, each at 18 is 36. So you have, well, another way to look at it on the Trump side is that 35% of the electorate in South Carolina, the Republicans, these are Republicans being polled. and Trump's at 35%, and all the other Republicans are picking up the remaining 65%, and two of them, Cruz and Rubio, combined are at 36%. And this public policy polling has the same results. In fact, it might be a public policy polling poll. Yeah, I'm sorry, the states where this was published. And it's PPP, Public Policy Polling, left-wing polling outfit out of North Carolina. So Trump 35, Cruz and Rubio 18 each. On the Democrat side, Hillary leads Bernie Sanders by 21 points. Sanders is making gains among black voters, but still trails by, it can't be 40 if Hillary has a 21-point margin. In this story from Breitbart, let's see if this is the same poll. Can't tell. Guess we'll have to read it together here to find out. A new poll in South Carolina finds Donald Trump maintaining his large lead, but also shows Trump slipping slightly since Friday. Rubio and John Kasich in this poll are edging higher. This is the South Carolina GOP poll. The new poll was conducted on Sunday by the South Carolina House Republican Caucus. Follows their previous poll released Friday ahead of the debate. The Sunday poll also conducted after the Republican debate on Saturday night. In the new poll, Trump leads with 33. So over at Public Policy Polling, he's at 35. In the South Carolina GOP poll, he's at 33. That's down 2 points since Friday. Cruz and Rubio are tied for second at 14% in this poll. Cruz is down 2 points since Friday, and Rubio is up a point. Jeb Bush in fourth place at 13%. That edges out Kasich, who has 10%. And Ben Carson is in last place with just 6% of the vote. So what can we take away? What we take away here is that in the immediate aftermath of the Saturday night debate, no measurable negative impact on Trump has been measured. But some people say that you need to wait 2 or 3 days for something like that to settle in, and look at polls taken 2 or 3 days after a debate to have a more accurate portrayal of people's opinions of it. You remember when Trump said that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose any of his support? I think he's fairly close to being accurate there. We've spent hours on this program explaining why that is, explaining his appeal. There's a guy in the New York Post named Mark Cunningham with another stab at explaining Trump today, which I'll share with you in just a moment. But as I said yesterday, if this performance on Saturday night, now let's sum it up again. This was a Republican debate. We had the front runner extolling the virtues of Planned Parenthood. That's never been done before. I don't even think John Kasich would do it. We've never had. Did Romney do it? Did Huntsman do it? I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think a Republican front runner has ever extolled the virtues of Planned Parenthood as clearly and loudly as Trump did. Trump also went after, in South Carolina, a revered former president, George W. Bush, who still maintains an 83% approval rating there. He not only went after Bush, he went after him as didn't keep the country safe. The Twin Towers came down while he was president, knew there were no weapons of mass destruction. I mean, he went into this debate. It was clear what he was doing to me. It's an open primary. Democrats and independents can vote. Trump needs them or wants them, one of the two. Either Cruz is gaining ground rapidly and he needs those votes, or he wants those votes to just swamp the rest of the field in the Saturday night primary and put the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. It won't be over if he wins big on Saturday, but it would be closer. But he's also signaling a bunch of other things. But as the front runner to say these things, and if it didn't hurt, my point yesterday, and I'll repeat it, if it didn't hurt, I think it demonstrates even more so the disconnect between the establishment and the people. Washington, D.C., and the rest of the country. And I don't think the establishment even now has any idea. The rage, the anger, the betrayal, which is what it is. The majority of people in this country feel a profound betrayal by the Republican Party, and there's a deep resentment that a bunch of faceless, nameless money brokers, lobbyists, and donors are shaping the future of the country by virtue of neutering the Republican Party. And the outrage at that is profound and deep, to the point that if this doesn't hurt Trump, it's just going to put an exclamation point on how angry, how ticked off on both sides of the aisle people are. Back after this, folks. Hang in there and be tough. Greetings. Welcome back. Al Rushmore on the Cutting Edge. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Here is Wendy in Houston. Wendy, you lead off today. Great to have you with us on the program.
Oh, my goodness. It is such an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. And my children love your book. So thank you. Thank you.
Bet.
I'll start with that. So thank you. Huge honor. I just want to call because I am listening to this, and I am a huge anti-establishment, cannot stand all of that. But yet I still don't get it with the Trump thing, because he doesn't stand for our conservative beliefs and values, whereas there is a candidate who does. Cruz stands up for what we believe in, and he is anti-establishment. So I don't understand how Trump can continue to say these things, especially have the audacity to support Planned Parenthood and all that he did on Saturday, and then it's still the people won't leave him who consider themselves to be conservative when there's a very viable option. So I'm hoping you can help me understand.
Look, one thing, let me say this again, and I need you to hear me this time. The majority of Trump's support base is not the Republican base.
Right.
The majority of Trump's support base is not conservative. There are quite a few, but I don't think they're the majority. And if they are the majority of the Trump support base, it's a very, very tiny majority. His coalition, it's really ironic. The coalition that Trump has put together is exactly what the Republican Party has been telling us conservatives they need to do to win.
Right.
While they have been blowing us off. While they have been lying to us, they've been saying, no, we can't win with just you guys. We need to go out and get these. Well, Trump's doing it, and they don't want any part of it. In the second place, remember, Jeb Bush said that he was going to win the nomination without the base. Guess who's doing it? Trump.
That's right.
So go figure.
Exactly. But then Trump I don't understand why people don't get more fired up, the conservatives, against him. Why people are not standing up against him and going with Cruz, who is standing up against the establishment plus the values. What are your thoughts there?
My theories are probably just the same as yours. You've got any number of alternatives to Trump, and
yes,
Cruz
absolutely.
is the leading alternative right now.
Yes, but he's just at 18%, I think you just said. Is that correct?
He's tied at 18% in South Carolina but he's outperforming in every election. He outperforms what the polling says. I think Cruz is the what's the term? He's the sleeper out there. It's Cruz that's sneaking up on everybody. Everybody's focusing on Trump.
So what is it going to take to wake everyone up and to cross that line? If Trump comes in and makes it big in South Carolina in this primary, then what is it going to take? Is it just done deal? What do you think it's going to take?
To do what?
To then wake everybody up to switch over, and you said the slumber with Cruz.
Wendy, I think everybody's awake on our side. Okay. I think that this is what you got to come to. Everybody's awake. And there are a lot of people. You're putting me in a very difficult position here.
Sorry.
No, I'm not complaining to you. You don't know, because I don't wear my blood on my sleeve. I don't bleed and whine and moan and complain to the audience about things that happen to me, because I'm bigger than that. But you would not believe the number of people who are coming at me as though, this is my fault. that I could have stopped this way back when if I would have just been a leader. If I would have just done this or that. I have been sitting around observing. I have been a conservative all my life. I've been doing this radio program as a conservative for 27 years. There is no doubt anywhere all across this country who I am and what I stand for. There's no misunderstanding. Well, there might be some misunderstandings among people that don't listen, but there's no misunderstanding that I am a conservative. And that, well, arguably the Mr. Big of the vast right-wing conspiracy. It's a challenging position I'm in here because there's some things I probably shouldn't say. I've got two responsibilities here, folks. I've got my responsibility to you, the audience, which I put at number one. My responsibility to this program, my career, my job, not my career, but this is the thing I've chosen to do. There are all kinds of people who depend on me doing it and doing it well. That's my number one focus. I'm not the leader of the conservative movement. I've never sought that. I'm not denying any. So already right there. Wait a minute, you mean you've been lying to us? No, I haven't been lying to you. It's not my job to get votes for people. Damn it, it's theirs. What more do you want me to do? The best thing I can tell you, folks, I guess, as I assess all this is not an election, a competition of philosophies. We're way beyond that. People are not going to rely on philosophy to accomplish anything. You can have the best philosophy in the world, I don't care what you call it, and it's not going to mean anything if you're up against somebody who succeeds at making people think he's going to break balls, kick butts, take names, put people in prison, fix the country, make the country great again, whatever the hell that means to people. You can philosophize all day long in competition against it, and we'll see you in the rearview mirror. And we're back. Happy to have you with us here on the EIB network. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden microphone here at 800-282-2882 and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. It's our last caller, very nice woman, extremely complimentary from Texas, name was Wendy. Wanted to know when people are going to wake up. And she defines people waking up as realizing Ted Cruz is the answer. Realizing the only hope is Ted Cruz. And part and parcel of that, in her definition, waking up is defined as when are people going to realize that Trump is not one of us? When are people going to realize that Trump is a fraud? When are people going to realize that Trump is dangerous? Whatever she thinks of Trump, and I'm trying to include whatever a lot of critics of Trump think of him. He's not genuine, not a conservative, not stable, unhinged, whatever. The criticisms of Trump run the gamut and are all across the board. But the point of her question is, when are people going to wake up and see this? And my answer to her was that I think people are awake. Now, a lot of you are upset with me, and I understand that because you think that I have been performing in more of an analysis rather than advocate role here during the primaries. And I would warn you, this is what I do every primary. There's been one exception, and that was Perot back in 1992. And I've told you why the exception for Perot, and it was because I knew that Perot had no intention of wanting to be president. He did not want to win. That's not why he was doing what he was doing. There was a personal vendetta there that I don't need to revisit it. Ross Perot is a fine man. He's very accomplished. He's a great American, a great patriot. But he didn't want to be president. And a lot of people, he didn't intend to even get in the race. He was forced into it. He made a speech at the National Press Club that just lit up the country. on wasteful spending and how to get the budget in control, and about lobbyists and a bunch of unaccountable people were running the country into the ground, and it resonated, as it always does, and he was propelled. And I Perot snuck up on the establishment. They didn't even see him coming. They didn't take him seriously as a candidate because he wasn't when he made that first National Press Club speech. I remember tuning into C-SPAN. I used to watch C-SPAN back in the early 90s now and then, and I was headed on, and Christopher Hitchens was a guest to talk about some new book that he had. And every caller was asking him about Perot, and he didn't know what it was about. He had no clue. And after a half hour of not one call about his book, and every call about Perot, he looked at Brian Lamb and said, "Who the hell are they talking about? I'm missing something. I'm going to have to get caught up." And it all happened right in Washington at the press club. The establishment, Hitchens was part of it, was so insulated, they had no clue. And it's amazing, back in 1992, don't forget, you had a conservative electorate which felt betrayed then by George H.W. Bush. Read my lips, no new taxes. He eventually made a budget deal with, I guess it was Foley, whoever the Democrat Speaker of the House was at the time, and we got our tax increase and all that stuff that H.W. Bush said running as Reagan's third term ended up being compromised. It's the same attitude, the same mindset in the electorate back in 1992, and they glommed onto Perot. On the same basis, they're glomming onto Trump, and that is, this guy's a doer. He's not a politician. He's an outsider. He's going to get in there and kick names. But I knew that Trump didn't actually want to. Perot didn't want to win, and in fact got out when it looked like he was going to win. And you remember what his excuse was? That the Bush team had hired a National Enquirer to sneak photographers in to take pictures of his daughter's wedding, and that was the last straw. Larry, that's the last straw for me, Larry. I don't want this job. If that's the kind of garbage I got to put up with every damn day is having the paparazzi in there trying to undermine me. So no, Larry, you can have it. That was it. He was on Larry King Live a lot. So, Trump wants to win. Trump is serious about winning. But back to the point, folks, that nobody's asleep here, especially this. Now, people on the left, that's a whole different ball of wax. I don't know about them. My attitude about the low information crowd, and they're just mind-numbed, brain-dead robots anyway. It doesn't matter if they're awake or not. They're going through life in a dependency haze. So it doesn't really matter. They're going to vote the way they voted. People on our side, if you think they're not awake, you've got to re-examine it. They are totally awake. They're awake to the point they're not sleeping. They're so ticked off, or so energized, or so engaged, or what have you. The second point that I made to her is that this is not an election of competing philosophies, ideological philosophies. People say to me, Trump's not a conservative. People say to me, Trump's not a liberal. Trump's not a conservative. Well, what is Trump then? Over here, Cruz, Rubio, the Republicans, for the most part, are conservatives. There's some of them that really aren't. But this primary, this election is not conservatism versus. I mean, it is, but that's not how voters are going to decide it. And when it comes to conservatism, I can say this with 27 years here behind the microphone doing this program, and I say this because I've had people say it to me. This is not something I'm intuiting, although after it was said to me a couple, 3 times, I started to intuit it, meaning dig deeper. But there are a lot of people who have been donating to Republicans, and a lot of people who think they've been giving money to conservatives and conservative causes, and they've started asking themselves, what are they getting for it? Where is all this conservatism? I mean, people solicit money in Washington to keep conservatism alive. in Washington in the Republican Party. We're the guys that can do it. We have the contacts. We help them write policy. We help them understand policy. Great. That's fabulous. But where is it? A lot of people are asking. Where is all the conservatism? Is it on Fox News? Is it National Review? Is it over at the American Spectrum? Where is it? It isn't in the Republican Party. That is for darn sure. And so many people are livid about that. I'm talking about the party establishment. Yes, Ted Cruz is. This is another. What more do you want me to say? Ted Cruz is the closest living thing to Ronald Reagan we're ever going to have in our lifetimes. I don't know what more I can say about Ted Cruz. I also like Marco Rubio. In comparison to other options and choices, people get mad at me for that. He's not a conservative. You want an amnesty, getting 8 billion, lying through his teeth, H1B. Folks, I know every objection you're going to throw at me. I know it myself without having to be told. I'm the last person you should think doesn't know something. If you're running around thinking, he doesn't know, don't include me in that list of people that doesn't know. I know everything about these guys, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, pretty, what have you. I don't say anything I say about anybody from an uninformed position. And there isn't anybody that's fooling me about anything. Rubio's fooling you for him. No, Rubio's not fooling me. Once you realize there's no perfection, then the view... What? Realize... Okay, see, Snurdly just thinks I have stepped in a huge pile of manure here by saying once you get past there's no perfection. He thinks that's the biggest step in it I've done all day, maybe all week. I'm talking about in a candidate. There isn't perfection in it. Well, there's no utopia. There's no perfection anywhere. And it doesn't mean that you settle. I'm just advocating an honest perspective on things. I don't have a reason. I can't come up with a reason to hate Marco Rubio like some people. I can't come up with a reason to dislike Rubio, just like I can't come up with a reason to hate Ted Cruz. If people come at me and go, you can't be serious what you said about Ted Cruz. Really? And if I told you the kind of people saying it to me, you'd totally understand who they are. Ted Cruz scares a lot of people simply because he mentions God. Ted Cruz scares a lot of people because he looks to the heavens when he talks about God. That scares a lot of people. Point is, I hear all of this, and what my efforts here are to share with you as much of my understanding as I can, in the sense that could be persuasive in and of itself. But I don't think any of you are asleep. I don't think anybody's putting anything past you. But maybe Wendy, the last caller, let's use her as an example. I think it'd be safe to say that she thinks that some people supporting Trump don't know what a big mistake they're making. My point about Trump all along, what I've tried to say in I don't care how many different ways to avoid repeating, I think everybody supporting Trump knows exactly what they're doing, and they can tell you why. Now, they may be wrong, but they're not in the dark, meaning they're not asleep. They may be wrong about some of their assessments, but the electorate is fully awake on our side, and it's fully energized. And whether you think it's healthy or not, I think the most animating characteristic of our side this year is anger. And some people think that can be good. You can channel anger and do positive things. Others think it's a totally destructive emotion, that it can poison you. It can turn you into a giant pessimist of self-fulfilling prophecies and so forth. And both happen to be true. But it's no denying, nevertheless, that anger is and the anger is legitimate, and it's genuine, and it's aimed at what people consider to be profound, daily, insulting betrayal from, let's just call it, people in Washington. It is clear that a majority of Americans think that those leading the country, governing the country in Washington, are doing it for their own benefit to the exclusion of everybody else. Well, if you know anything about envy and anger and so forth, then that will explain quite a bit of a lot of people wanting those people to be taught a lesson, wanting those people to suffer, wanting those people to lose what they have in terms of their power, because they're not doing it for the good of the country. It's not that they're not doing it for the good of all. It's that they are letting the country go to hell. And they don't care because they're getting theirs in the process. That's the opinion many people have of it, of them, the people in Washington. So I think they're fully awake. And if you want me, let me ask you this question. I mean, and if you want to call and answer the question, fine. I'm not arguing with anybody here. You know me, I'm just a giant sponge. I try to absorb and learn as much as I can. Tell me, if you are one of the people out there who thinks that as a conservative leader I should be destroying Trump, would you call here and tell me how you would do it if you were me, given that Trump doesn't seem to be able to destroy himself? Tell me how you would do it if that's what you think needs to happen. If the only way we're going to get Cruz or Rubio or any conservative elected is for people to see the light about Trump, I want you to tell me how you would do it when Trump gets any camera time he wants. He gets any microphone, any interview he wants, he gets it. Any he's offered, he takes. You tell me. In the meantime, an obscene profit time out here on the EIB network. Back after this. And back to the phones we go. This is Moshe in Clifton, New Jersey. Welcome. Great to have you on the program. Hi.
Hey, Rush Dittos. I've been listening since 1988, since I was a little boy in the 8th grade. And I've been listening to you and thinking of you as the father of modern-day conservatism. I looked to you for years to help clarify how I thought on various issues, and I've never called a talk show before. But today I'm confused. I feel like a ship being tossed about with the navigational system gone blank. I'm not used to hearing Rush as the dispassionate observer of things that are going on. I mean, if we believe that conservatism is the hope for our country, how can we just sit back and just watch Trump take it away?
Well, I have not been dispassionate, and I'm not just sit back watching. I'm doing everything I can. You're
analyzing, you're observing, you're helping us explain why Trump is doing what he's doing. But, I mean, look at what he's doing. Why not get out? Do you believe that you have the ability to influence millions of people? I believe you do.
I don't do this program every day with that in mind, and I never have. That's what I mean. I've often said that I don't show up here cognizant of having power, and I don't contemplate it. I don't think, okay, how can I, I hope to have play a role in people's level of being informed and educated and being able to critically think rather than be force-fed stuff and become sponges or mind-numb robots and so forth, which primary criticism I've always faced in this program. That's what I've been fighting against. But let's cut to the chase. What would you do if you're sitting where I'm sitting and you are everything you think I am? What would you be doing? And I think you think Trump needs to be exposed.
Absolutely.
So what would you say? What would you do?
Well, listen, Rush, I speak to people who are Trump supporters who sincerely believe that Trump is the conservative choice. I mean, Trump gets up there and says it all the time. They believe it. It needs to be exposed by the leaders in the conservative movement. And leadership doesn't mean leaders don't choose to be leaders. When people follow someone, that makes them a leader.
Well, but I have made it clear. I don't know. I've not made it a theme every day, but I have said countless times that Trump is not conservative. I said he's not ideological. I've said he doesn't look at Chuck Schumer and see an ideological enemy like you and I would. He just doesn't. I've tried to, after the debate on what more do I have to say? Trump's targeting liberals and Democrats. What name a conservative who does that?
Do you believe the country would be in good shape with a President Trump?
Do I believe the country would be in good shape with a President Trump? I believe
President Cruz or President Rubio.
I'm going to answer it this way. Honest from the depths of my heart. And this is the guy this country needs to be saved from the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is the most destructive force in this country, and anything that beats it, anything that blows it to smithereens, anything that renders it a minority institution, because that's what I think needs to happen.
But the Democrat Party just as an institution, or liberalism in general? Because Trump is liberalism.
The Democrat Party is an institution. The people who, the Democrat Party and the things that it stands for, the things that it's doing under Barack Obama, that's the new Democrat Party. The new Democrat Party believes America is ill-formed. It is ill-gotten. The modern Democrat Party thinks that the United States of America is illegitimate. Donald Trump doesn't think that. The modern Democrat Party thinks that the United States of America is the problem in the world because of our superpower status. We are too rich. We're thieves. We've stolen everything we've got. The modern Democrat Party thinks this country does not deserve half of what it has. And its objective is to strip this country down, strip it bare, open the borders, let anybody in the world in here. The objective is to tear down every institution and tradition that made this country great from our founding forward. That's got to be stopped. Simple to me. And welcome back, folks. Great to have you here. El Rushbo with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. You look at the polling data, particularly the polling data coming out of South Carolina, and it looks like Trump has topped out at about 25% of the conservative vote. And I think this is why he is making moves in other directions. And it's, of course, strategically understandable, gives South Carolina as an open state. But I think Trump's been pretty steady in the percentage of the conservative primary vote that he's getting from poll after poll after poll. If you average it all out, he's around 25, maybe 28%. But his peak has been reached for a while, and it isn't Cruz is catching up. In some polls rapidly, in other polls not so rapidly, but still closing the gap, and Trump knows this. And that's why there was no doubt, or to me anyway, it wasn't confusing why he would take the positions he took on Saturday night in the debate, given the fact that South Carolina is open, and he wants to win. Now, one other thing before we go on, get back to the phones on this other matter, a couple other things. Snerdley thinks I stepped in it big when I said moments ago that once you realize there's no perfection, then everything becomes a little easier. Well, if I stepped in it, so be it. But I think the pursuit of perfection in candidates has been one of the reasons that we've been losing. We might have a guy, and by that I mean a woman, could be a candidate, who is 95% adorable, lovable, perfect, but might be pro-life. Gone. You're finished. Out of there. 95% perfect, except, well, wait, that's not good. You couldn't be 95% perfect if you're pro-life. Let's throw that out. That's kind of mandatory. Got to be that or you're not even a conservative. Second Amendment and so forth. But immigration. There are a lot of conservatives out there who are not part of the no amnesty crowd. My point is that the closest we've ever had to, if you want to call Reagan the perfect conservative, then Cruz is it. Cruz is the closest in my lifetime that we've come to it. And obviously is the closest in my lifetime we're going to come to it. But see, what if Cruz doesn't get the nomination? Republicans get ticked off, so have the hell with it and stay home maybe or not vote. Which just cedes the election to the other side. It's a fine line and a tightrope here. But in this particular election, I really don't think it's a battle of philosophies, as I've said. And I really believe what I just said to the last caller here. The biggest and most destructive force in this country today is the Democrat Party. They've got to be beaten. They've got to be stopped. This Democrat Party that we're up against today is not the Democrat Party of 20 years ago or further, 25, 30, 40. The Democrat Party today has been totally taken over by ultra left-wing radicals, international left-wing radicals, for whom the United States of America is an obstacle, for whom the United States of America is a problem, for whom the United States of America is largely disliked. And they have power now. And you see what they're doing with the power. They are chopping this country down to size every which way they can. Some of it very publicly. Much of it you don't see until it's too late to stop it. But nevertheless, that's the objective. And that, to me, speaking personally, my overriding desire is for them to be stopped. My overriding desire is for that party to lose. Now, you get into an argument, okay, well, what's the best way to make that happen? And then I realize that some people are going to say the only way that can happen is with conservatives dominating and so forth. And that'd be great if it was the case. But my point to you, I'm not going to not vote. I'm not going to stay home or get my nose out of joint or get twisted in a bunch of anger if my preferred person doesn't win, but there's still somebody out there I think can snooker and smack around and beat the Democrats. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. People can say I've been leading conservatism these 27 years. I've also been doing everything I can to inform and educate people about who and what the Democrat Party is as well. Anyway, I have this story by Mark Cunningham that is in the New York Post today, and it's about Trump. And it's yet another attempt to explain Trump. And I go back to Wendy, our caller from Texas. When are people going to wake up? When are people going to find out that Trump's a fraud? When are people going to wake up and find out this is a disaster? It's an accident waiting to happen. When are they going to realize they're making a huge mistake? When are they going to see that Cruz is the only solution? So knowing that those are people, that there are people out there in droves, people are trying to come up with explanations. Then Cunningham's here is the latest. And his piece begins this way. The other Republican candidates are finally starting to fight on Donald Trump's terms, to judge by the slugfest that was Saturday night's debate. But it speaks volumes, whole encyclopedias, about the ignorance of our political and media elites, that they're only now realizing that much of what Trump's been doing is just busting balls. It's a blue-collar ritual with clear rules. You overly insult people, yeah, but with infinite subtleties. It can be a test of manliness, a sign of respect, a way of bonding, and much more. Rule number one is you never wince. No, you never squeal. You can wince, but you never squeal. You never complain. You never whine. Number two, you bust right back if you can. Not knowing how to play this game is no excuse, and not getting how it's played shows that you have no idea how a huge swath of America lives. Cunningham says these are the Americans whom Trump has made his base. From the start, Trump has targeted the mostly white working class, which happens to be 40% of the country. And he's done it not just with issues, but with how he talks. The ball busting, the bragging, the over-the-top promises. But bragging is not about his ego. The endless reciting of poll numbers, the constant references to how much the media is paying attention to him, that's mainly about showing that he's beating the cultural elite. Trump is reminding people that he's winning. He's not blowing his own horn because he's an ego freak. He's reminding everybody he's succeeding. He's bragging about his success. This is expected in this world. Beating the elite on behalf of his voters who have been invisible to the politicians and the media for decades. I think it's all wrapped up right there, if you want to know the truth. The people in Washington have been doing whatever damage is done to this country in order for them to get and save theirs, to get and protect theirs, their positions, their jobs, their power, their money. Everything they do is oriented towards self-preservation and self-growth. And whatever happens to the country in the process is of no concern to them because they don't think they're ever going to live among the country. They're the elites. They're always going to have enclaves, walled and gated communities and so forth. Yeah, there's a mess being created, but somebody will fix it down the road. In the meantime, I'm getting mine, and I'm taking care of my family, and I'm taking care of my kids and grandkids, and I'm acquiring some power. And so there's a disdain. Washington isn't about what's best for the country anymore. It's about what's best for Washington. Consider a huge story that vanished almost immediately in early November. Two Princeton economists discovered that deaths are soaring among middle-aged, low-education whites. We pointed out that story on this program, and we gave you the details as to why. It was a genuine academic study that tried to figure out why suicides and premature deaths are happening among white, middle-aged, in some cases low-education people. The rise in mortality, that would be death, for those of you in Rio Linda. The rise in mortality from 1999 to 2014 was 22%, up 134 deaths per 100,000 for whites between 45 and 54 whose education ended in high school. The reason? Jumps in suicides and deaths from drug abuse, that is, alcoholic liver disease and overdoses of heroin and other drugs. One of the economists, a Nobel winner Angus Deaton, notes that the only modern trend it compares is the AIDS epidemic. AIDS won headlines for a decade. The Deaton findings basically vanished from the media after a day. In other words, the story of advanced premature death of large numbers of middle-aged white men got scant attention. And these soaring death rates are just one sign of the stresses the American working class faces. Many other blue-collar folks struggle on okay, but they know they've got huge problems that just don't get talked about. Anyone who does raise them gets denounced and then ignored, until Trump. America has not been great for working class people for decades, which is why Make America Great Again is a great slogan for a guy who's talking tough on the problems that blue-collar Americans see as killing them. And getting attention, unbelievable attention, even as he breaks all the establishment rules, makes them glom onto this even more. Because he's playing and winning by blue-collar rules, and what are you going to do about it? course, he has to show them he's for real. Why should these voters trust him? Answering those unspoken doubts is why Trump doubles down on his promises. He's not just going to build a wall, he's going to make Mexico pay, and he keeps saying it over and over again. He's hell-bent on making sure these people believe him and understand that he means what he says. He's not just sloganeering. My point is, if this guy's right about this, the competing philosophies that you want to throw up against it are not going to register. If people's lives are so dire that they're considering suicide, that they have no money, that they can't get jobs anymore, they can't find health care, they're being priced out of everything. Christmas isn't Christmas anymore. You can hit them all day with how great one philosophy is over another. It ain't going to register. And the anger these people have, and it's not an insignificant number of people either. Anyway, I got to take a break here, folks. More phone calls from you when we get back, so don't go away. Let me try this another way. Now, just so you all know, I hope you don't have to actually be told this, but I don't live in a place where time has stopped. I'm still not thinking of things in the 90s like the Clintons are. I'm on it. I'm up with it. I am, as always, ahead of the curve. I am in advance of societal evolution. I also have a deep respect for your own independence and your intellect and your ability to think for yourselves, and have never, ever engaged in what the Democrats engage in, and that is trying to create armies of people not knowing what the hell they're doing. Much more respect for you than that. You're free to make up your own mind about whatever. I'm here to help inform you in my mind. I'd love it if you'd agreed with me, but it's up to you whether you want to. But let me ask you a question. In terms of strategy, strategical question, experience guided by intelligence, all of that, how many years did I attempt to awaken the American people about Bill Clinton? Maybe 9, maybe more. You could say that I continue to try to tell people the truth about Bill Clinton 10 years out of office, 5 years after he left office. How many years have I been trying to tell people the truth about Hillary Clinton? How many days have I spent trying to tell the people that voted for Barack Obama of the grave error and mistake they made? What was the result of it? Bill Clinton served 2 terms. Obama served 2 terms. Hillary is the front runner for the Democrat Party. And the reason is something I realized from before I started doing this program. The people that listen to this program are totally capable of thinking for themselves. All of you are. At least that's how I approach you. I don't approach you as not knowing what to think. I don't approach you as not being able to think. To me, it would be insulting. It's the Democrats that treat their voters that way. They try to create little armies of essentially robotic voters. Bus picks you up at a certain time, takes you to the poll, tell you what lever to pull, and you go back home. That's not at all what I've been aiming at here. But my point is, in terms of strategy, maybe there's a different way than simply telling people what a reprobate Bill Clinton is or what a danger Barack Obama. I mean, I can't tell you the number of days I lost my voice trying to tell people about Obamacare. Still passed. I can't tell you the number of days I lost my voice trying to warn people about what Obama's real intentions were with this country and what he really intended to accomplish with Obamacare and immigration. Still won re-election. No, I'm not. No. I'm not saying, well, it doesn't matter. I'm saying there are different ways of going about accomplishing the same goal. Anyway, I'm up against it on time. I have to stop there. But we are not through. You hang in there, be tough. We'll continue after this, folks. It's really simple, my friends. I don't want to destroy anybody who could defeat Hillary Clinton. I don't want to damage anybody who could defeat the Democrat Party. It's no more complicated than that. The establishment still thinks all this anger here is a bunch of spoiled brat little children type anger. They don't get it yet. They need to be awakened fully. And let me ask you all another question. How many of you believe that George W. Bush campaigning in South Carolina yesterday for Jeb Bush is going to help Jeb Bush? How many of you believe that George W. Bush going in and explaining, he was on television last night with Jeb, the campaign trail, talking about the Iraq War, weapons of mass destruction, responding to some of the allegations that were made in the debate? How many of you think that's going to help Jeb? Show of hands. How many people in your audience out there? How many in the audience? How many think it's going to help? Greetings and welcome back. Great to have you. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Email address ilrushbo@eibnet.com. Mike, grab number 26 first before we start with the numbers I gave you. This is Trump. This morning on Fox Business Network, Mornings with Maria, the money honey, the infamous Maria Bartiromo. She played a clip of Trump saying that the pledge he signed not to run third party not being honored by the RNC. He's mad. He's mad at the donors showing up with all the seats at the debate and booing him. By the way, the RNC says that isn't true. The RNC says the candidates are getting the lion's share of the tickets, so they're pushing back on that. We heard from them yesterday. In fact, we hear from everybody. You know, during an election year, nobody's happy. During an election year, I'm letting down somebody every day. Disappointing somebody every day. You know how hard it is to deal with that? Anyway, I'm not complaining, folks. I never do it. I never whine and moan to you. I never complain about this job, period. Because, well, host of reasons, but just don't do it. Anyway, Trump is he was saying, I'm going to run third party. I'm going to run third party. These people are mistreating me. They're not respecting me. I signed that pledge, but they signed it too, and they're going back on it. Now Trump is saying that he's not going to run third party. Maria Bartiromo said, Mr. Trump, can you explain this for us? Does this mean you are, again, considering a third party run?
No, it's just that I'm very upset with the RNC because every single time we have a debate, they have it stacked with special interests and donors and lobbyists, and the rooms are all stacked. I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm not taking special interest money. I'm not taking lobbyist money. I'm not taking any of that money, and the room was stacked with those people.
Now, let me expand on that for have you remember when Trump said that he's financing his own campaign and he's not getting any credit for it? You know what he really means by that? It's all wrapped up here. I'm not taking any special interest money. I'm self-funding my campaign. I'm not taking lobbyist money. I'm not taking any of that money. He brings this up not to whine about it, but to be repetitive over and over again, to let people know he's paying for this himself because he thinks there's value in people understanding that. He's paying for it, and everybody's upset with all the money in politics, and he's trying to ram it home that he's not. And when people don't notice it, his feelings are hurt. And he tells you when his feelings are hurt. Most people don't. When people don't, when it doesn't register, when they don't appreciate it, he's going to whine about it until people do. And it is that kind of thing that's always been thought to be deadly. But for him, it isn't. It just seems to, if not hurt him, it seems actually to help him in some cases. Now, I want to go back, ladies and gentlemen, to Hillary Clinton, who was recently campaign appearance in Reno. And in the campaign appearance, she remembered a radio commercial that she had heard in rural Arkansas. And I will bet you that Hillary Clinton remembers every damn second that she spent in rural Arkansas, because I will bet you she hated it. And she resented whatever took her there. And it would have been her husband's campaign. I guarantee you, not the Rose Law Firm. Her husband's campaign would take her into the sticks of Arkansas. And as a Northeastern elite academic, having to go, it's just demeaning as it could be. So she remembers this radio commercial in rural Arkansas where somebody, in the ad, there was a dog that barked every time some advertiser, some sponsor, whatever, told a lie. She said, you know what? We didn't want a dog like that. We need a dog like that for the Republicans when they start talking about the banking system. And in the middle of her remarks, this is what she did. Started barking like a dog. It's on video. She's holding a microphone. Now, ever since Chelsea was in the White House, dog jokes have been verboten. And here comes Hillary now acting like a dog on the campaign trail and on the stage in Reno, Nevada. So we thought we would add this to our ongoing montage of Hillary Clinton sounds that she emits regularly.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far. We are Americans, and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
There you're... There you have it. Hillary Clinton's campaign reduced to 29 seconds. We have some Hillary Clinton sound bites. Where are they? Oh, here they are. She was in Hooksett, New Hampshire. Last Tuesday night, Clinton campaign headquarters. And she was speaking to supporters after losing the New Hampshire primary.
When children anywhere in our country go to bed hungry, or are denied a quality education, or who face abuse or abandonment, that diminishes all of us. That's why I did start my career at the Children's Defense Fund. That's why I went undercover in Alabama to expose racism in schools. That's why I worked to reform juvenile justice in South Carolina. And that is why I went to Flint, Michigan on Sunday. When people anywhere in America are held back by injustice, that demands action.
And Gwen Eiffel then asked her a question. This was in Milwaukee, PBS, a Democrat debate. She asked Hillary if white Americans don't have a right to be resentful right now.
I'm going to do everything I can to address distressed communities, whether they are communities of color, whether they are white communities, whether they are in any part of our country. I particularly appreciate the proposal that Congressman Jim Clyburn has, the 10-20-30 proposal, to try to spend more federal dollars in communities with persistent generational poverty. And you know what? If you look at the numbers, there are actually as many, if not more, white communities that are truly being left behind and left out. And that's why, as president, I will look at communities that need special help and try to deliver that.
We are going to have that dog barking at every lie Hillary tells, which is pretty much after every sentence. And remember, she started it. Okay, now let's move to audio soundbite number 2. This is Karl Rove, and I realize many of you, when you hear the name Karl Rove, think that I am showing Dracula the Cross. But Karl Rove had some comments about Trump and expectations for Trump in the South Carolina primary. Now, I'm going to preface this by reminding you what I said yesterday, that Trump's performance on Saturday, it's been confirmed now, by the way, that he was reaching out to moderates and Democrats to expand his voter base for a host of reasons. Ted Cruz is gaining serious ground. Trump may think that he is maxed out in terms of the number of conservatives that make up his coalition. South Carolina is an open state. He needs to gain ground. He needs to defend off Ted Cruz, or from his standpoint, it could be that he wants such a sweeping victory that it makes it look like nobody has a chance, basically hammer the final nail in the coffin this Saturday in the South Carolina primary. Whatever the strategery is, and there is a strategery, whatever it was that led him to do it, Karl Rove now says that because of this, Trump has raised his own expectations, that he's got to win so big now to avoid being seen as a loser. It was on America's Newsroom, Bill Hemmer speaking, when he say, hey, Carl, if Trump wins on Saturday is he then in a position to run the table, do you think?
It depends on if he gets, in a new poll, he was at 42%. That would be awfully strong. But if we see a New Hampshire-like result, that is to say, in the low 30s or high 20s, he's not begun to consolidate. Not a single person who's withdrawn has supported Donald Trump by saying and doing the things that he's doing. Do you think the Cruz people, if Cruz loses, are going to be excited about joining Trump? Do you think the Rubio people, do you think the Jeb people, all of these people that he goes out and just takes a flamethrower and burns them to a crisp?
So Carl is saying, you take the people, Christie's bombed out, left the race, Carly Fiorina, they're not sending their voters to Trump. So Rove's point is that if Trump doesn't get 38, 40%, after all of this, with a bunch of Republicans dropping out now, Christie and Fiorina are gone. Ben Carson, for all intents and purposes, although he's not officially said he's out, but his percentage is pretty small. But regardless, Rove's point is that none of these Republicans leaving are endorsing Trump, and they're not sending their voters to Trump. So Trump's got to get them somewhere else. And if he doesn't pick up additional voters, if these other people go to Cruz and they go to Rubio, then Trump's margin of victory with other voters, moderates and Democrats and independents, had better be big, or the story is going to be Trump is losing. Now, you have to, this is pretty clever. Rove out there now is trying to establish expectations that are pretty high. Trump better get 40 or more, or it's going to look like he's losing. And what are the odds he's going to get 40? So Trump is trying to establish a narrative here, not just for the Republican Party, but for the media as well. Quick time out. We come back with more after this. Don't go away. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Rush Limbaugh, your guiding light, happily so. Yesterday afternoon, Hanahan, South Carolina, Donald Trump held a press conference. This is the press conference that was going on as our program was taking place, and we didn't have a chance to get to any of the sound from it. But here is one of the attacks that he leveled on Senator Cruz.
I've never seen anybody that lied as much as Ted Cruz. And he goes around saying he's a Christian. I don't know. You're going to have to really study that. I think he's an unstable person. I watch him. I see him. And I always say he's a good debater, but he can't talk. I don't even think he's a good debater. I mean, I heard he's a good debater. I don't personally see he's a very good debater. He is a very unstable person. That's just my opinion.
He's a nasty guy. He's not even an American. He's born in Canada. You've heard the drill. Now, all this means is that Cruz is gaining some ground here. Trump has seen polls where Cruz is gaining ground. He's going back and forth on whether or not he's going to sue Cruz. Today he said he doesn't think he will. He hasn't made up his mind, but that Cruz is a liar. That's the new theme. Cruz is a liar. He's a thief. He stole poor old Ben Carson's votes. He says he apologizes and fine. That's after the fact. If I'd have been Ben Carson, I'd have done something about it, Trump says. So Ted Cruz was on the Christian Broadcast Network website last night, Brody File, yesterday. And during the interview, the discussion about Christianity, which Trump just said, well, from Cruz a Christian? I've never seen anybody lie as much as he does. Christian, I guess you have to look it up. I don't know. Really study that. Now, here's what Cruz had to say about Christianity.
For far too long, Christians have been staying home, have been ceding the public square to non-believers. And when we look at the state of the country, when our heart weeps at what's happening to the country, and we wonder why is it that the federal government is waging war on life, is waging war on marriage, is waging war on religious liberty, is it any wonder when 54 million evangelical Christians stayed home in 2012, did not vote? If we allow our leaders to be selected by non-believers, we shouldn't be surprised when our leaders don't share our values.
Wait, there's a 54 million evangelicals stayed home? I didn't know the total number was that high. I thought the number was 4 million, largely evangelicals, Christians that stayed home. But maybe it's just his point is that with the government waging, and make no mistake, but he's right about this, the Democrat Party is waging an all-out war on Christianity. What do you think that the institutions and traditions that define this country's greatness, where do you think it came from? All you need to do, the left can't stand when you do this. All you need to do is go back and read George Washington's first Thanksgiving proclamation. Read his farewell address. Read any official government proclamation back in the early days of the founding. Every other word is giving thanks to God for the fact that the nation made it. These clowns run around saying that this was not a Christian nation. It's like this idiot Fareed Zakaria said yesterday, America was founded on the principles of diversity and ethnic... BS it was, only to the extent that liberty, we're all created equal, but we didn't put this country together on the basis of skin color and sexual orientation. We didn't put this country together. It wasn't founded on the premise that these different groups were suffering grievances out there. The people of America were suffering a grievance. They were living in tyranny. They were being deprived their liberty. This country was a revolution of freedom and liberty, and even the left has bastardized that. And they're trying to redefine what the American founding was all about, so to make themselves look like they are the modern heirs. That offends me. These people have got to be defeated. This silly idea that America was founded to protect the minority status of favored Democrat voters today? What an absolute insult and crock. So here comes Cruz pointing out, look, this is a country founded on these particular religious beliefs, and it's undeniable. It's where our morality comes from. That's the left hates that, by the way. They despise that truth. Another reason why they want to blow this country up and transform it into something that it was not founded to be. And his point is that if you're going to sit out elections, if you're going to sit out there and not vote and complain what's done to the country, is it any wonder that presidents and elected leaders chosen by non-religious people, not even true believers, just non-religious people, is it any wonder they're going to govern the way they do? So you sit home and protest. Don't be surprised when your values are not shared by the people who win elections if you sit home and don't participate. So Cruz was making a direct appeal to the evangelical vote. That's something Trump can't do. Well, he's got Jerry Falwell Jr., but he's got to go broader than that in an attempt here to expand and broaden his base. Jeb Bush on CBS this morning. He was with Gayle King, the BFF of the Oprah. And she said, have you ever thought about, Jeb, maybe just ignoring Trump? You maybe try that tack?
I've thought that. Then I get back to thinking, you know what, he's hijacked my party. I've been a conservative all my adult life, and someone has to take a stand.
Right. So, no. I've thought about it, but no, he's hijacked my party. I got to defend it. I got to go after him. Last night, forget the montage. Too long to set it up. Don't have enough time here to do it. Here's a little George W. Bush. Last night, North Charleston, audio soundbite number 11. First of two we'll try to squeeze in here.
These are tough times, and I understand that Americans are angry and frustrated. But we do not need someone in the Oval Office who mirrors and inflames our anger and frustration. We need someone who can fix the problems that cause our anger and frustration, and that's Jeb Bush.
No, all right, there you have it. So here we're back to this now. People's anger, and we need somebody to be able to fix the problems that cause the anger. Look, we would not be here. Well, there'd be a campaign, but it would be much different looking had the Republican Party had spent the last 7 years trying to fix this. It all comes down to, it always is, it's all going to come back to that. The anger that's out here today is not petulant, it's not childlike, it's not temper tantrums by children. It's real because the Republican Party has not tried to stop the Democrat Party and their destruction. It's no more complicated than that. I just got an email from a very close friend. You sound really frustrated today, but you've done a great job explaining yourself. And he goes on to analyze what he's heard on the program. Folks, I should have pointed one thing out in the last hour when we were into the real heavy and intense discussion of this. And I've mentioned this before. In primaries, I have never endorsed candidates for a whole host of reasons. But at the top of the whole host of reasons is I do not control what these candidates think or say or do or put in advertising day to day. And to go out and endorse one is without any control. I want no part of that. I wouldn't want people going out and supporting somebody in a crowd like this because I've suggested it, and then down the road the candidate slips up and does something, people get mad, and then they blame me for not seeing it and leading them astray. And you want to know how easy it is to happen. How about Ronald Reagan voting for amnesty? I don't care. You can say, yeah, he got fooled. You can say, yeah, they promised him they were going to close the borders. Yeah, but he still voted for it. If at the time this kind of thing is going, Reagan raised taxes. He did cut them more than anybody else, but he raised taxes too. That's my point about nobody being pure and nobody being perfect. Reagan, the Marine barracks, he should have hit Hezbollah. Instead, we pulled out of there. There's any number of things that even the best candidates do that are going to disappoint the people that vote for them. It's guaranteed. It is a lock. That is why I have always, instead of going for candidates, gone for ideas. That is why I have always invested in ideas as the host of this program. And concepts and objectives. Rather than throwing all of that into the basket that is a particular candidate, again, who I don't control, who, the nature of politics being, it's going to happen. They're all going to disappoint us at one point or another, some major ways, some it's going to be small, but it's always going to happen. And I don't want to have to answer for something a candidate does. I don't want to sit here being, you told us that so-and-so was never going to, and we just did. I know, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. I got fooled. What can I tell you? Now you get into the general election, and you've got party versus party. Then it's a no-brainer. I mean, that's not anywhere near a similar circumstance. Here's Robert in Southampton, in New York. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hi.
Thank you, Rush. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Long-time listener since I'm a little kid. And what I think you see playing out right now with Trump and the GOP and all that is there's two competing versions of what conservatism is going to be going forward. And I don't know that the anti-Trump guys even know what they're selling anymore. And by that I mean if not being a perfect conservatism, being a perfect conservative was enough to sink Trump, he would already be sunk. It's not that we don't know that he's not a conservative. It's that we don't care that he's not a conservative. And the things that he's conservative on they're important enough and they're such of an overriding nature that they can't. I mean, no one going to a Trump rally, I don't think, cares about his position on tax cuts. I don't think they really believe in their heart of hearts that he's pro-life, for example. But what he is conservative on are two issues that going forward, probably for the next 50 years, are going to be really hot-button issues, are identity and immigration. And the rise of the alternative right and the more nationalistic right and the rise of Trump seem to have been hand in glove. I don't know whether he's leading them. I don't know if we're leading him.
I love this.
The relationship is definitely there. It's growing. And I would just say this, and I think you touched on it last week.
Yes.
Nationalism is has a little bit more curb appeal right now than standard issue Republican conservatism, and that is because, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and I don't want to be the skunk at the
wait a minute, don't miss what I asked the question. I was doing what I ask people to think here. You know, I love thinking myself. I think it's been very productive for me. I love causing people to think. I asked, has nationalism and populism overtaken conservatism in the eyes of people supporting Trump or in the general population? I asked people to think about it. Now, I was misquoted as having proclaimed it in a lot of places to irritate rank and file straight down the middle conservatives who did get mad at me because they were misquoted. I did not claim it. I merely asked if it's the case. And I was using a column that was written back in 1996 about Buchanan, how it foretold what's going on with Trump, in which nationalism and populism were advocated back then by guys supporting Buchanan. I simply asked the question. Now, did you just say that you think the alt-right might, in fact, have predated Trump and might be propping up Trump rather than Trump bringing the alt-right along with him? Did I just hear a click? Did he just hang up out there? We just lost the call. Was he on a cellular? Yeah, okay. Well, darn it. I wanted to ask. Well, anyway, folks, he said something key there. He said the two issues that define the future, immigration and what is an American, or something like that. Identity. And I'm going to tell you, that is so right on the money. And that is something that all of these people, I grow tired of calling them the elites and the ruling class. I don't know what else, the establishment. I'm telling you, whatever you call them, they do not get that. That doesn't register at all. Particularly the ones on the left. In fact, bully for them. If anything is causing America not to be America, then that's great with them. They think America is the big problem in the world. But that basically is a comment on assimilation. You know, we didn't get to it today, but there's another story. Do you know what Obama's doing? The number of minors, unaccompanied minors, storming the country's southern border from Central America is still at a record high. And it's not being reported this year like it was last year. And what Obama is doing is opening military bases, primarily Air Force bases, to house them. And the people in the military and the Air Force are quietly talking to the media about how outraged they are at this, that the military bases never were designed to be orphanages. But Obama is putting them there until the government figures out what else to do with them. But nobody is stopping them. And you couple that with all of the other immigration, illegal or otherwise, that's going on. If there's no assimilation, if these people are not coming here to be Americans, and the Democrats don't want them to become Americans, that's the point. The Democrats are trying to undo this country fabric by fabric, door jam by door jam every day. And part and parcel of their effort is to bring in people who are not interested in becoming Americans. It's terrible what the Democrat Party is doing. It is unconscionable what they're doing. And I don't think it is a small number of people out there who know it and are aware of it and don't want it to happen. There are a whole bunch of really great people out there who want to hold on to America as it was founded and recapture it and grow it for all the goodness that it is. We'll be back in a sec. Don't go away. Yeah, that was Fareed Zakaria, GPS, who said on CNN Sunday that Obama never said he wanted to transform America. He did say it. He said it back in 2008. He said it a number of times. And Fareed Zakaria, GPS on CNN, was complaining I didn't know what I was talking about. But not only has Obama said that he wanted to transform America, he is transforming America. It was also Fareed Zakaria GPS, who is not from America, but he may be a citizen, I don't know, but he's not from here. He said that America was founded on the principles of diversity and ethnic diversity and racial diversity, whatever the hell else he said. It was a crock. These clowns are even out there trying to redefine the founding to make it look like this country was founded in their corrupt view of things. It's despicable. You want to talk about what ticks me off? The Democrat Party is what ticks me off, folks. I mean, I can't. And you want to talk about frustration? The fact that I think I'm the only one is mad at the Democrats? Everybody else is mad at the Republicans. I get that. The Democrats are where you need to focus. They're just the most destructive force in this country right now. It's one thing for a bunch of people not try to stop them, but they're the people actually doing all this that's destructive. Anyway, now that we've shared our mutual anger, we can close the day as one. Well, hopefully I won't oversleep tomorrow and throw all my rhythms out of whack. It's really strange arriving to work an hour and a half later than usual. Everything gets compressed. Anyway, have a great rest of the day, folks, and we will be back tomorrow, revved and ready. See you then.